Good evening. In this demo, we're going to see the use of one of the PHP-enabled web server, Quick PHP, and develop our first PHP page. I hope this can get you started, and you can begin to programming in PHP and experiment with other examples. All right. PHP is what we call a server-side script language, which means the execution of PHP language is at the server side. Thus, we need a server, and particularly a web server, and more exactly, a PHP-enabled web server to execute PHP scripts. There are a lot of servers out in the market, but today we're going to use a very simple one. It's called Quick PHP because this is called a lightweight. It doesn't need any installation. After the installation, you can directly use it. So it's for simple test purposes. The URL to the Quick PHP web page is included in the syllabus. So once you get to this page, follow the link, scroll down to the section where it says download PHP version. The version we need is the first one, quick PHP web server.zip 3.14 megabytes. This one includes PHP modules enabled, so you don't need separate download. So click on this link. It's it's a very quick excuse me. It's a very quick download. Once you download it, it's a zip file. So open it or save it first. So I'm using a program called 7-zip. So this is, I download it, and the contents in it. We have 4 files. Please extract them to a specific folder, as I have done. This is my Quick PHP folder. I extract all the files. You can see that there are 4 files, and after executing it, there's another file generated. So total should be 5 files. So once you remember to extract the files from the archive and save them to a specific folder, then you can use it. Okay. Now, let's double-click quickphp.exe. This is the basic configuration interface for the server. In order for the server to run, we need an IP address 127.0.0.1. That's for the local machine. And the port number, you can specify your own port number. I will use 800. 800, I know for sure there is no conflict. And then check allow directory listing. This allows you to see all the files in your folder. The root folder, this is where the root of the website. Please point this to your dedicated folder for all the web pages. So for example, click on here and select the folder where you put all the files. So for me, it's in sessions, and I have a demo site. I put all my demo files in at this site, and we can leave this as default. Now after all this, click Start. You don't get indication that server is started. So to test if your server is running correctly, go to the browser, open a new tab, and input the address you just entered in the PHP server, 127.0.0.1. Don't forget the port number, semicolon 800. That's the port number, and enter. So on the Internet Explorer, it doesn't recognize this. So append this with http :// and then 127.0.0.1:800. Now, what you see is the content of my folder. So I'll go to Sessions, Demo Site. This is my files. I have about 7 files, and in the browser, that's exactly. You can check any one of them. I have some former examples of JavaScript. So it works. My JavaScript works. You can see that now we have a local server running at the local IP address. And now we can start to test our PHP script. To begin with any of the PHP script, I'm going to use one of the example file from from module 4. The first example for JavaScript is this. Originally we use some JavaScript to generate some dynamic content, and I'm going to start with this file and change it to a PHP scripting which at the server side. So I'll go back to my folder, and there is the file. The first thing I'm going to do is to change the suffix of the file to PHP. Or you should create a new file. Every PHP file by default ending with PHP. So once I changed it, that's our PHP file. So I'll open this, edit with Notepad++. That's our content. That's originally contains all the JavaScript. Or alternative way to create a new PHP file is go to the new file, and then go to language, and go to P, and make it a PHP file. And then you can save it. So automatically PHP hypertext preprocessor file is selected for you. So let me go back to this. My purpose of this demo is to write very simple PHP script and to achieve the same results we use for JavaScript. We use JavaScript, but the difference is one is at the client side, that's JavaScript, and now we're using PHP, which is the server side. The first difference we use PHP is for code blocks. It's pretty similar to JavaScript. We need some script blocks, but to indicate this is the PHP code block, we use something different. This is what we use. A question mark, PHP. PHP here is optional, but we need a question mark. And everything is between the tag, question mark, and the closing. The second, to output something on the web page, to generate some dynamic client content, we don't use document.write. We use the echo command, and the rest is the same. We don't need the parenthesis, and we use semicolon to end the statement, so that's the same. And we use double quotation mark as to represent a string. So I just rewrite the first JavaScript part into a PHP part. So let's test it. I will change the name here, Jack, to another one, let's say Wendy, and save. Now how can we test our page? We no longer double click the file in the folders, but instead we go to the web page, and of course make sure our server is running, our PHP server is running. So go to our web page, input the URL http 127.0.1 and its other completed, and you can see that the first file is changed to PHP. Click on it. There is welcome Wendy. That's just generated by PHP script at the server side. Let's do further changes to this file. I'm going to rewrite the second part, JavaScript. Now we're using PHP server-side script. First, change the code block symbol. And the second, here is the variable. It's different representation of variables in PHP. We use the $sign to represent a variable. And again, it's pretty similar to JavaScript. There is no specific type definition when declaring a variable. We use // to denote this is a comment. Again, we change document.write to echo. And now the name is the variable, so we precede that with the $sign. And the last change we have is the concatenation operator. In JavaScript, we use +sign to concatenate different parts, variables and strings. In PHP, we use the dot. We use the single dot. To confirm this actually works, I'm going to change Jack to a different name, say Tom. So save this. Go back to our Internet Explorer. Refresh the page. And click on the PHP file. There it is, we changed to Tom. So we changed the second statement. And you can see that because we changed the variable of the name to server side, the client side no longer can receive the value. That is to say, a variable is defined at the server side cannot be used in JavaScript in the client side. You can make further changes to transform the script in JavaScript to PHP script and do some exercise yourself. Similarly to JavaScript, PHP script can mix with the static HTML tags. So for the third examples here, I will change the client's JavaScript code into the server side, and the static HTML part is still remains the same. Change a document write to echo and use $sign as the variable name. Save. Go back and then refresh. There is Tom. So notice that the first three statements here is actually generated by PHP server-side script, and the last two is generated by JavaScript. So what's the difference? How can you tell? One way to tell the difference is actually by looking at the source code. we have PHP block, we have JavaScript block. Another way to check this is actually to see the actual code that is downloaded to the client side. This actual downloaded code is different from source code. So let's check. Right click and view source. This is the source code of the page. It's not the original source code, but the source code that's being downloaded to the client side. You can see that the first three statements here, all the PHP code blocks are gone. There is no PHP statement, which means all the code downloaded to the browser is already transformed into the client code. There is no server code. Server code cannot be seen at the client side. It's all processed. But compared to that, look at the last two statements, which use the JavaScript code. These are client script code. It's not executed by the server, so we still see them at the client side in the browser. So that's the difference. That's a very important difference between the server-side script and the client-side script. All the server-side scripts are executed at the server side. When they are delivered to the client, the browser, it's only the results is being delivered, not the original source code. This is very important. That's why you don't see any of the PHP code. Now, let me make one other change to see how the PHP web server here deal with errors, because we make errors every day, right? So, for example, for some reason, I did not use the correct statement echo here. I'll save this. Go back to the browser. Do a refresh. There, a typical error message is generated, and we are going to use this message to debug our program. It reminds you what kind of error at what place. So 920. You still have to check to find out what's the example, what's the real problems here. Save. Refresh. All is good. Alright, so that's the end of our first demo. In this demo, we have learned how to use a very simple PHP enabled web server, Quick PHP. So when you finish this, you can actually stop the server. If you want to make changes, you can go ahead and change it. And we have seen creating our first PHP script and compared how it's different from JavaScript. And we'll continue the demo in the next, when we actually use PHP to process some of the form data. All right. I just feel terrible about my throat. You have to excuse me for a while, and good night.